Hey everyone, welcome to episode 2 of Product Managers Who Design Think. Our goal is to find more than 10 unicorns just like us. I'm Jay-Z and I love taking startups from 0 to 1. Susan joins us today from Amazon Web Services, where she leads the startup experience and innovation team. Susan, I'll throw it over to you for your intro.
Hi, Jenny. Thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here. I'm Susan Velasco. I lead the Startup Experience and Innovation team at Amazon Web Services, which basically means my team's mission is to help startups succeed with AWS. So to do this, we work with startups to understand what they need, where they're running into challenges, and how we can improve their customer experience, as well as innovating to ensure that our services, meaning Amazon Web Services, as well as programs, are keeping up with what startups need. Like a lot of people who work at startups in AWS, I'm also a former founder. I founded an e-commerce company back in 2009. It was an overstock company. We were buying and selling overstock products similar to overstock.com, and built and launched a website, which was my first experience in product management and building out a new product as a whole. So I did that for a few years and then went over to Carfax to launch a new product for them. That was my first experience with design thinking, and I'm happy to talk a little bit more about that in a bit. But after Carfax, I went to another startup company here in Ruston, Virginia, that was a no-code platform for creating mobile apps, where I led the product strategy and innovation team for a few years. And then a couple of years ago, came over to AWS, where I am right now.
Wow, what an interesting journey of all the different products that you've made. You're such a maker.
I like to think of myself that way. At least that's what I enjoy doing. So it's a lot of fun. I love the creative aspect of building new products, building new things. Really, the 0 to 1 is really just such an amazing journey, which I know you know as well because you do that too.
Yeah, I think all the people who are product managers who design think really rock at the 0 to 1.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into the questions. How much impact has design thinking made on one of the companies that you've been at?
Oh, how much impact? So I'll tell you the story of when I first discovered design thinking. It was 2012, and I had just joined Carfax. For those of you who aren't familiar, Carfax creates the vehicle history reports that you probably use when you buy or sell a used vehicle. And my goal was to build a new product that leveraged the underlying data that feeds those vehicle history reports, so information about vehicles, and use that data as well as machine learning and predictive analytics to create a consumer engagement app that would help car owners take care of their cars. The product itself is called My Carfax. Now it's called Carfax Car Care. It's been renamed. I'm probably a little bit biased, but I think it's a great product. It's totally free. So if you want to check it out, feel free to do that. But to getting back to when we first built it out, we started obviously by doing customer research to figure out what were the biggest challenges that customers had in maintaining their car. And we found out that people struggled with knowing what services they needed to get done and also remembering to do those services. For example, when I first started there, I didn't know that I needed to get tire rotations done on my car. There's just these things that you need to do. So we felt like we had the data to be able to help customers with this, and we felt like we had a really compelling value proposition. Our next step was to get this into the hands of consumers. And we were doing this through our initial release, which was an iOS app. We wanted to be mobile first because we thought it would be really more helpful if people could access the information when you're on the go in your car or at a service shop or wherever you may be. But to develop this first release, our challenge came in two places. The first one was that we had a looming deadline to develop the initial design so we could hand it over to development and they could develop to it. And the second was there was so much interest in this new product from key stakeholders throughout the company, particularly executives, that we had a lot of back and forth and spun our wheels quite a bit in the initial design that really delayed us in being able to get this out to our developers and get them into the hands of our car owners. So it was a really challenging process. I would say I was doing at that time weekly meetings with key execs, and we were going into a lot of detail around the look and feel, the functionality, how it worked. And this was all based on internal opinion, and we weren't getting enough customer feedback that we could take into account.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you, but we all want that high visibility project, and then you get it and you have so much stakeholder input and all these really tight deadlines. So I think that we can all empathize with that experience. Keep going.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. Anytime you have a high profile product or something that is generating a lot of excitement, particularly on the executive level, you're really going to have that stakeholder management that's necessary in making sure you're accounting for executive needs and incorporating their needs and opinions, but also that you're doing it in a way that you're still able to move forward with the development and the design, and making sure that you're taking into account, customer feedback as well. So the next phase of this was to design and develop our website. And at that point, I really knew we needed to do something different, because the way that we did the initial iteration was really complex. It was painful for everyone involved, not just myself, but also for the designers involved, the developers, for everyone. And this was around the time that I learned about the concept of design thinking. I think right now it's pretty obvious. A lot of people know about design thinking. It's probably one of the premier methodologies that people would use, as you had mentioned, when you're going to zero to one with a new product. But back in 2012, it really wasn't as well known. So I wanted to give this a try. I hired a UX contractor, and we started with these processes, initially doing the workshops where we enabled people throughout the company to provide their input, make sure we account and take into account all of these great ideas that we had from all these stakeholders and even non-stakeholders throughout the company. Everybody had ideas, and we were able to incorporate them along with customer research at the time, and do it in a way that was efficient and effective. So we held those workshops in the beginning, got all that, were able to do the brainstorming. And then we moved into our weekly sprints, where we'd go through those rapid cycles of prototyping, testing, getting customer feedback, taking that into account, and then doing it all over again. I would say that's a much more what we call customer obsessed way of doing this, where we were able to take the input in the beginning and then use that to get customer feedback and leverage the customer data to really start making the decisions about the overall design and the usability.
So then I think when I ask this question to everyone, they always say it's really difficult to quantify either the time or the money or the impact. But if you were to give like a very, rough estimate, like a t-shirt size swag in terms of months or quarters, what kind of impact could design thinking have?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Obviously, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but what I can say is the initial process that we used to design the iOS mobile app was inefficient, and it caused us to go through additional cycles that delayed our release by, I would say, probably 3 months. When we got to the website design, we were able to move much faster, and the development process was sped up in such a way that because of the structure that you put in place and you're able to plan this out more efficiently from the beginning, you have your set time for input, and then you're gathering customer feedback, and then you have a specific time when you're planning to finalize that. We were able to deliver our website on time. And I think that's like a major accomplishment in any sort of new product development.
That's amazing. And in terms of the stakeholder management, how are you able to gain trust that their voices would be heard and executed on?
Yeah, that's a great question. And this is something that I hear quite a bit from other people that I talk to and also folks that I mentor. Stakeholder management is hard, especially executives. But what I found to be really effective is setting expectations up front of when you plan to take input, and also letting those stakeholders know what the process is and at what specific intervals they'll be able to give you input again. So you have the initial design thinking sessions up front, then you have sprints, and then if you set checkpoints along the way at which you're able to share out the progress that you have, and what you the current designs, and get feedback at that time, and people know in advance, that it goes a long way towards establishing that trust. Now, you're still going to have the executive who comes in and still wants to change everything, even when it's not doesn't necessarily fit into your process. And sometimes you have to make your judgment calls on whether it's worthwhile to do that. But for the most part, I think setting those expectations and specific timeframes is really helpful.
Wow, it sounds like such a win-win. You delivered on time, and you really garnered the feedback at the times when you could really use it and incorporate it into the final product.
Yeah, it was very helpful. Yeah, and it very effective.
All right, let's move on to question 2. What is the funniest thing that happened in innovation?
That's such a great question. So it's really funny because as a product owner, you tend to get really close to your product. And sometimes you can get too close. So I'll tell you a story. This is also when I was product owner at Carfax. One night I was driving down the street. It was really late at night, probably like 10 o'clock, pitch black. And I get pulled over. And I'm thinking, why am I getting pulled over? I'm not speeding. Nothing's wrong. Well, it turns out my registration was expired. And I'm like, how can my registration be expired when I'm the product owner of an app that alerts you when you need to get things done in your car, including registration, renewals, and inspections, and all of those other things? I was so embarrassed personally. Well, what happened was, because I was doing so much testing, what I would do is I would sign up with all of my various emails, all different types of vehicles, for alerts and notifications. And I was probably getting 20 to 30 alerts and emails every day, for various cars, just so that I could check out, make sure that they're working properly, that our business rules were working, that the alerts were working. And somehow in all of those test emails, I missed the email that my own car's registration was due. It was very, very embarrassing. You can imagine me telling this story to my development team was caused quite a laugh. But the moral really is that you can be very close to your product, but you also need to make sure that you're using your product as a consumer, and not getting lost in all of the different test scenarios and the happy paths and the sad paths, and that you're actually getting value from your own product if it's something that you can use.
Wow, that is, I've talked to so many design thinkers, and you're the first design thinking outlaw that I've ever met. So go Susan.
I love that. I love that. I think I'm going to use that as a username or something the next time I sign up for something. Design
Please
Thinking
do.
Outlaw.
You should park that across all the different marketing channels.
Yes, yes, yes. It'll be trademarked by Jay-Z.
Awesome. Well, and also just, a testament to your authentic style of leadership, telling us that story, because we often, mix our personal lives and our professional lives to test, and it can get kind of funky with the data. So thank you for sharing that story.
Yeah, I mean, what is life if you can't laugh at yourself?
Exactly. All right, moving on to a quick light question. What is your favorite icebreaker warm-up, Stoke?
Love this question. So, my favorite icebreaker in general is two truths and a lie. I use this all the time. I use it whenever I have a new team member joining the team, or whenever I get people together for an offsite who haven't really worked together before, for workshops. It works great in so many situations. For those who aren't familiar with it, the way it works is everybody gets a sticky and you write down three things about yourself. Two of them need to be true, one of them needs to be a lie. And then everybody goes around and guesses which one is the lie. It's a really great way to get to know a lot of people really fast. And it is amazing what you'll learn about people doing this.
Yeah, I love that one. It's a great one to keep in your toolkit. And it's so easy to remember, two truths and a lie. You can use it with people one-on-one, or, huge workshops and every meeting size in between. So thank you for that one.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, question 4. Tell us about the situation action results of a previous design thinking session.
Oh, well, I'll tell you about the most memorable design thinking workshop I've had. So, the goal of this session was to improve the customer journey for startups who were first getting started with AWS. And in order to do that, we needed to pull together a cross functional group of people from marketing, product, design, you name it, probably about 10 to 12 people. And all these people were spread around the US, and we needed to get together in San Francisco to do this. So, why it was memorable? This was around September 2021. And if you remember at that time, most people had spent about a year and a half in their homes talking to each other over video, like we're doing right now. And I would say there was a tremendous amount of excitement about the idea of getting together in a conference room, actually meeting, doing things in person. People were super excited. Well, September 2021 was also around the time when COVID restrictions were kind of coming and going. And the day before everybody was set to travel to San Francisco, we got the notification that the city had instilled a mask mandate in all public buildings. This includes office buildings. So that meant that if we were going to have this workshop, we needed to mask up for 3 days. You're talking 8 to 9 hours on end of being in a conference room with a mask. And I was really distraught when I found this out. I thought, how can we do this? 3 days in a row, people, it's not going to work with masks. What about when we need to eat lunches? How's all of this going to work? And we really had a choice to make, whether to continue on with the workshop or just cancel it or do it virtually. And at the end of the day, decided to just keep going with it. It was a challenge, it was a monkey wrench, but we're going to work around it. We all went, we did the workshop, we did the journey mapping, we did the brainstorming, and you know what, it was just fine. We got used to doing this with masks. We worked around the challenges, and I'll never forget doing this 3-day workshop in masks. But I think it was a great experience. People were just happy to be there together and be there in person.
Yeah, I love that story, because design thinking is where a lot of high performing teams really show up. So everyone wants to be there to have their ideas heard and to make it work. So it's one of those experiences where, people want to make that meeting work for them and everyone else.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And at the end of the day, we really had an amazing workshop. We came away with a good sense of customer journey, a few areas we knew that we needed to work to improve on, and that resulted in initiatives that some have already been released, and some of them we're working on right now.
Amazing, so productive.
Yeah. So really, people are so adaptable. People are way more adaptable than you think. And even if you don't have the ideal environment for a design thinking workshop, you can make it happen.
That's inspiring. All right, we're down to our last question, which is a question about questions. What questions can the product managers who design think PMWDT mouthful community help you answer?
Yes. Let me just start by saying I'm so excited about the work that you're doing. Thank you so much for pulling this together and pulling together this group. It's the first step is really getting everybody together to talk about best practices and learn from each other. And I would love to see this expand even further. I would love to see more and more people, more and more companies adopting design thinking. And so my big question, or it's not even really a question, it's a challenge. And the challenge is, how can we make this more ubiquitous and get more people doing it and get people the right resources, make sure that best practices are shared and that people have what they need to be able to do it.
Oh, interesting. So making it even more user-friendly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you mind if I ask, when you first found out about it, how or who did you find out about it from?
I found out about it by talking. Actually, it was one of the third-party companies that we contracted with to do development, and they had UX experts on their team. And that was the first I had heard about design thinking, and I was blown away. I was so excited when I learned about it.
Awesome. There's so many, like from IDEO to Pivotal to all the amazing consulting companies out there who really champion it.
Yeah.
And then,
And the one other thing that I would like to add is the person that I learned about it from is Jessica Hall, and I just want to give a shout out to her. She's a designer, not a product person, but she was amazing, and I really am thankful to this day for the opportunity to learn about design thinking from her.
oh, I know Jessica. We'll definitely mention her in these recordings when we post them. Wow,
Yeah,
small
let's
world.
do it.
Okay. All right. Well, any ending thoughts?
No, I would just say thank you so much, and it's been a pleasure.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Susan from AWS, for sharing all of your funny stories and admitting you're an outlaw in design thinking. And I hope that everyone will get in touch with either you or I on LinkedIn and follow up on how they can use design thinking in their product practices at their companies. And any ideas that you all have about making this more ubiquitous and easy to use be certainly welcome. So thank you so much, Susan.
Yep, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.